Hello, thanks for joining us today on June 14th of 2024, the True Community Gathering. I'm John Lant, True Board Member and guest host for today. Today's gathering, we're going to be looking at a program called Theater in a Box, which is a program that I run, and it's about tools on self-producing and off-Broadway run in different ways and steps that you can do that before you get started, either on the self-producing tour or by doing it with another producer and working with them within a structured group, like a theater company, or if you're working with another organization that produces shows, or theater companies or festivals, those kind of things that can help you maybe bridge and come up with some creative ideas about how you can do this as well. I want to encourage people before we get started to go to the Tony Party fundraiser, which is happening on the 24th, which is going to be at Jack Doyle's this weekend. We're kind of pushing that. We've got a buffet that's going to be offered. We also have for True members and friends of True members, there's going to be people there that are going to be in our community, people that have joined us for other events and or leadership roles and positions in our community groups. There's also going to be wine, there's desserts, there's the Tony ballot, there's a chance to win theater tickets. There's all kinds of things. There's also a cash bar after you get your complimentary wine with your dinner. It's very inexpensive for you to go. It's also an opportunity for you to network. And that's kind of what the community project is about and what we do on Fridays at 5:30. It's all about networking. Whether you are a top tier producer, whether or not you're just getting started, we're here to help. And that's kind of the motivation that we all have. That's kind of the mission that True also does in terms of helping the artists get their word out there. And so that's what today is going to be about. So if you can make it to the Tony Party, great. If you can't, you're also able to buy a ticket and donate it to one of those underprivileged artists that can't afford it so that they can come and get some free food and also join the Tony ballot as well. And you can also support, it's tax deductible. You can just buy a ticket. You can also donate additional monies for that. So as a board member, I'm obliged to make sure that you know that we need to survive. I think you've gotten that message previously on the Friday. So even if today you can make a $5 donation, anything is helpful. So please do so. A little bit about myself. I'm John Lant. I've been in the business over 40 years. I'm kind of a unique individual because I also produce, I direct. I'm a general manager in terms of smaller off-Broadway projects. I have been in the business a very long time. I'm third generation. I'm also a designer and lighting designer. So I grew up in the business. I kind of eat and breathe this kind of business. So I work on a lot of multifaceted areas, and which makes me valuable in a very unique way as a production manager. I do a lot of production managing, not only in the theater scenes in New York, but also around the country. I was the production manager at Carnegie Hall for 14 seasons, right up to COVID. I work at the Tilles Center out in Long Island at CW Post as the production manager out there. I will be going back to work very soon. I do freelance work as well and consulting, and have gone through many programs with several of the people here. I've produced shows for people here. I've been a PDMP master's student as well with Jane and Jennifer. I learned a lot from that program, and even though I've been producing for a very long time and have done 17 off-Broadway shows, both equity and non-equity shows, and produced tours, and I found that to be a very valuable insight to either reaffirming, which I hope we can do some of that today in terms of how you produce or ways that you can produce inexpensively. And also, it was a great networking opportunity for me. I met somebody in that class, and then I ended up producing a show called Shimmer with Marcus Ferraro off Broadway. And that came out of that program. And it was very valuable and useful for me as well to open up an opportunity for me to work with other producers as well and learn about their projects and how they pitch projects and how I pitch projects. So if you get an opportunity, I highly suggest that you would get into the Foundations program and apply to that, and then work your way up and then get into the master's program. There are lots of opportunities here at True. So I definitely say, check it out. If you're brand new to this program, get involved. there's things that are going on all the time, whether you do musicals or whether or not you're a playwright and then you do straight play. So that's what I can suggest that you do. Today, I'm just going to kind of go over a little bit of a history of what my path was. I started out very young doing this. What was a music performance. I was actually a lower brass tuba player. But I didn't feel that I wanted to practice 8 hours a day until the age of 35 when I would get my opportunity to be, auditioning for, at that point, like Chicago or New York or Cleveland. I was working my way up. I was working through Interlochen, and then the Detroit Symphony Orchestra tubist was my teacher. And I thought, I could do this, or I can do theater, which I know. And so that's the path I took. I also do film and television as in every single department. And recently have not only produced several films and been directing on very short projects, but also have TV studios that I work at, two, particularly one in New Jersey and one on Long Island, that we do a lot of work together. I have a lot of cooperatives. I'm going to say that because that's what you need to do. You need to be in a co-op. You need to be in a co-op of artists that you like being with, because you're going to be in the trenches. A lot of times there's going to be times where it's going to be very tenseful. So you need to be flexible. You need to be patient, and you need to love what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, then why are you doing it? And why would anybody want to be around you if you don't love what you're doing? So I definitely want to say that number one is the love of the art, the love of the project. I prostitute myself many times when I have to make money for rent. So if you have a special skill that you're able to do that, and you're able to do what I do, which is kind of ghost on projects, then I suggest that you do that. Stay involved in the arts is all I can say. Stay involved. If you've got to work, anything that you can do, any volunteering that you can do. There are a lot of organizations. I'm an artistic director for an LA theater company. I have a theater out in Los Angeles that we produce and develop work. Many people know my producing partner, Tamara Pica. She and I have been working together for over 30 years. She works on separate projects. I work on separate projects, but we do a lot of projects together, especially in the development arena of theater and television and film projects that we're trying to get off the ground as well. So a little bit about what I wanted to talk to you about today is how you get started. There are many ways to get started, but one of them I'm going to seriously suggest, and as other people have suggested before, is get involved in particularly some groups like Off-Broadway Alliance. They have, and true, they have opportunities for you to resource and find out about general management, about lawyers, about theaters. So you're going to need to do a little bit of homework on your end if you're going to be talking about doing some self-producing yourself. Even if you pick up a producer or you hire someone like me or someone else that's been mentioned on here, Lisa or Cooper, any of these people, they're going to also be in the know of where to go to get your resourcing for a lawyer, for your legal, for collaborative agreements, or a general manager / executive producer that's going to be helping you with your project, whether it's a 29-hour reading or you've done one of the 4 tiers. So you're going to want to make sure that you're associating yourself with people that are going to know where to go so that you don't waste your time and you work more efficiently in terms of producing what your next step is. And you don't necessarily know where your next step is. That's why you come to organizations and you ask people. The biggest thing I can suggest to you, and I've said this to anybody that I work with, go out there and just ask people. There are a lot of people out there that just want to talk about what they do. Sometimes it's not convenient in terms of a timing thing, so go find somebody else. A couple of suggestions that I'm going to make to you are get a LinkedIn account. That's the best way you can start your networking journey. You can join a group like Off-Broadway Alliance, which takes in members, and you can submit your membership for that in terms of like what you want to do. Go to True, talk to people in True, come to these gatherings. Those are going to be other opportunities. Things that I've used in the past that have been helpful, and not necessarily in the way that it's directly helpful for me, but I scour Backstage, I scour Playbill, I scour Broadway World, I go to Theater Guide, I do Theater World News. There's groups like the Ken Davenport, which I'm involved with the theater makers. So there are other places that you can go, and gather that knowledge first. It's not that we don't want to be approached by somebody that doesn't know anything. We also want to be approached by somebody who has some sort of background on us. When you're looking for me, people have looked me up on Google and they say, oh, fantastic. I know you produce these kinds of shows. I know that this is something that's in your wheelhouse. I know that you do all kinds of different things. How can you assist me in putting up my show? So networking is going to be the number one thing that I'm going to say that you want to do in terms of that, and doing your homework a little bit about the people that you may or may not approach. And listen, they're nice people and they're not nice people. So I do think that what has happened, or one of the benefits for COVID that has happened, is that we've become more accessible. I've met producers and people from all over the world now by just watching this this program, or going to Zoom readings and being available to interact. And so other producers that I would have never talked to before, I've had great conversations with, and now I'm more than business associates or colleague with. I'm also sometimes, a friend that they can call and say, hey, John, you want to grab a cup of coffee? And I'll be surprised that that person would okay, yeah, fantastic. And it's all about setting your success monitor. For me, I want to work on projects. I'm getting older. I want to work on projects that I'm passionate about. I want to work with people that I like. I want to do those kind of things so that I am either training the next generation of artists that are coming up, and or helping them kind of leapfrog their career markers in terms of where they think they are. So that is an important step for me. One of the things that I also kind of stress is that once you've done that, you're gonna start getting the reality. It's gonna kind of slap you in the face, the reality of actually how much stuff costs. And there's kind of the pre-COVID costs of what theater was, and now there's the after-COVID costs. You have to remember that during COVID, many businesses went away, and so many theaters went away. And even if they got the PPE or any of those other kind of support systems, the arts really took a hit. And also, there were shows that were in the queue of shows that were coming up. So, for instance, we had 4 shows running off Broadway when we had to close down at St. Luke's and Actors Temple. We had 2 shows in my theater in Los Angeles that had to close down to COVID. Not one of those shows has been brought back. Frankenstein, we ended up turning into a movie musical because we had the opportunity at a TV station and with a group of film artists that were ready to actually do something, and wanted to do live theater and wanted to change what their model was for a hybrid, instead of just film, but theatrical filming of a project that was from the live stage. And so that allowed us that kind of new tunnel. However, a lot of theaters went away. So shows that were in process either got dumped or got picked back up, and it had to start all over again. It's not just like the light switch did come back on and people were just kind of caught unaware of when it was going to happen. So the queue of shows that were in process that were going to continue didn't allow a new influx of artists. And while you were sitting at home writing all your plays and writing all your musicals, there was a glutton of artistry that was happening, but there wasn't a lot of places to put it. So now we're just starting to get over, I feel that we're just starting to get over that kind of hump in terms of like the new work that was coming. Also, we had the writer's strike on television, right? So there was a lot of that, which was having to kind of work itself out in terms of the seasons being canceled, producers canceling shows, putting things on hiatus, starting over. So again, we're just getting back into we're just getting back into the system. So don't be discouraged if you've had a piece that you've had that was sort of in development, now is kind of more working itself in development. There are a lot of producers that I know and work with, and general managers that I work with that they've got like 5 or 6 projects that they've got to do. There's several of you that are sitting in this meeting right now, which was, I met John in 2013 and he didn't produce anything for me until 2017, or I met John in 2017, he didn't do anything for 2019. So the idea is that sometimes no isn't not at that moment. It's just, I can't, handle that. And you don't want to work with somebody that's got 20 projects, right? There's a lot of general managers that have to pay their bills as well, so they're working on 3 or 4 things. I find it easy to work on a couple of different things. I don't want to overtax myself, but I do work on multiple projects because it's actually easier for me, and it's very cost effective. It's cost effective for advertising. It's cost effective for marketing. My casting director, plays that I put in place, that I'm using talent that I can shift around to some of my other pieces, so that when they get bored of working on one of my musicals after 10 months, they're able to shift into another one of my musicals. But we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of contract and turnover, that kind of thing. So those are kind of things that you sort of, for me, I sort of think about on a larger scale because I've been doing it for so long. For you, that for those that haven't been doing that for a long time or aren't thinking of that kind of scale, the best thing that I can suggest is stay hyper focused in terms of what it is that you're looking to get out of it. I say that there's 2 kinds of things that you're trying to get out of. One is either, and it's got to be above the door, and it can't be both. I know some people say it is, but it's got to be one or the other for me. It's, do you want to be a commercial success or do you want to be a critical success? And it doesn't matter which one you are, but there are different ways that you market and different ways that you approach those sort of things. And when I say a commercial success is, I don't want to tell you that you're not going to make money off Broadway, but I'm going to tell you right now, you are probably not going to make money off Broadway. It's just, the numbers just don't work themselves out properly. You may be the very special few that are going to do that. So taking that out, let's just take out the commercial part of, I want to be a successful off-Broadway commercial producer. And unless you own your own theater and you have multiple spaces and then you're able to do multiple shows at the same time, that's probably kind of not a reality. So let's deal with the reality of becoming a critical success. The critical success is that you're going to be successful in terms of getting reviews and getting your piece done the way you want it to, and the best possible thing that you can promote yourself with either regional or especially you want to go for the licensing. The licensing is what you're looking for. The licensing could be for something that just happens to be, academic. It could be regional. It could be something that you want to put on international, or have somebody pick it up and say, I want to pick up a tour, or I want to get a producer that's going to take it on a tour, whether it's a small musical, whether it's children's theater, whatever that happens to be. That's where your residual income is going to probably come from for yourself as an artist. It took 10 months to make $1 billion for Titanic, probably less, but it took 10 years to make $1 billion for some show. Could have been Wicked, profits I'm talking, Wicked, it could have been Phantom. It was just a timetable. It kept going and kept going. So the money is out there for you to be able to take advantage of that. But what you want to do is, middle America is not going to know, mostly middle America is not going to know about whether or not your show, which ran off Broadway, it's just going to come to the town. It's going to come, I'm sorry if anybody's from Dubuque, Iowa. It's going to come to Dubuque, Iowa, and it's going to say, off-Broadway hit of 2025. So hopefully that will transfer into a producer outside in a regional theater that produces shows and new works, for them to get an opportunity to get an off-Broadway show to their audience on a subscription base. So those are kind of things that you can actually kind of focus on. There are other ways that you can focus on having your kind of critical success. It's an idea that if you bank a few of these, producers are going to start looking at it. I do, and I'm involved in a lot of speed dates. And one of the things that people don't do in a speed date is kind of promote themselves. And what they can do to promote themselves is say, I am somebody who has written 14 plays, had 17 things, that have been produced. I'm working on another one. I've written 2 television shows that have been produced. So what you want to do is, sometimes you just got to give yourself an attaboy and an accolade that says, I know what I'm doing. So a producer doesn't have to start from zero. There are many producers that won't start from zero. They want to have at least 80. And so 80 is the B people that have already had lots of shows produced, have had lots of things that are in motion, things that are in development, so that they can talk the turkey and say, oh, fantastic. I don't need to shortchange this. I don't have to talk to the least common denominator in terms of knowledge about how a show is done. I could talk to them and say, we're going to need to get this. We need to do this. We need to do this. And there's kind of a pecking order in terms of that. There's a lot of pecking order that happens on the Broadway producing level. There's a lot of pecking that happens on the off-Broadway thing. From my experience, I worked on a show that was going to Broadway. I worked 11 years on this show. 11. We even opened out of town in Los Angeles. We renovated a theater and we were ready to come in. We had started a negotiation with a theater, the Nederlanders, because they were gonna refurbish their theater, and they were like, "No, listen, our piece is about, it's a gilded city state that's in the 15th century of a post-apocalyptic whatever, and it's got Cirque du Soleil elements and all kinds of different things. Don't change your theater." And I'm like, "All right, well, you're first in the queue right after this little show. We think it's going to run about 9 months, and then you'll be in the next season. So are you interested?" "Yes, we're going to want you to open your show in Los Angeles," which we started and we did. And it was a little show called Rent. And so we never got in. So it doesn't matter how hard you work and how good your show is and how people are invested and interested in doing that show. And if it has to fit in one theater and it can only fit in, that was our space that we could fit into, it went up in smoke, and you just poof, all the money had to be given back because there was a certain time limit you're able to hold on to money. And so instead of taking it out on the road and doing other things, we just decided to close the show. So 11 years of my life was working on this show. So I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. And notwithstanding, I love Broadway and that, but I thought, if I can, in 11 years, I can do a lot of projects. And in the last 11 years, I've done 14 or 15 projects. So for me, it's a smaller scale. It's something I can control a little bit better. And it's going to have to be a decision on whether or not you want to go from intimate theater to the off-Broadway level. Some people want to stay in the 99 seat and down intimate theater and work in theaters around town to either develop their work, or that's where they like to play, to an off-Broadway. So a little bit about what I'm going to talk about now is my success on an off-Broadway marketing level in terms of how I've done it. There's several people that are in this room that do it a lot better than me. There's several people in this room that have done a lot longer than me, and there's several people that raise a lot more money than I do. But what I'm here to do is kind of help you navigate some things that you can look at in terms of becoming something that whether you self-produce, or you want to take a back seat and then you want to be able to engage someone to be able to help you, and then you can shadow them as a producer. Most really good producers, I'm going to tell you this right now, and they're surprised when I say I'm not a fiscal producer. I'm not. I don't have money. I take people's money and I spread it out. I take your dollar and I spread it out to make it look like it's $3. Most of that's done through resourcing, because I've been doing it a long time and I know how to make the most efficient decisions based upon that. Which I would go back to you as a producer and say, this is how I think we can definitely do this. Generally, I'm just going to give you generals. There's not a lot, but these are general ideas. Producing on an equity contract is probably going to cost you 6 to 7 times the amount of money it's going to cost for a non-equity show. You have to make those kind of balances and those kind of decisions based upon what it is that your show is. If your show involves a lot of mature actors, you're probably not going to find the talent that you're going to need in an off-Broadway non-equity level. Not saying you can't, I'm just saying that it's going to be much more difficult, because if that actor was any good, they're already going to be in equity. They're going to have already proved themselves. So a lot of the development depends upon where your characters lie. How many people do you have in your show? Are you doing a two-hander? Are you doing a 14-person show? And if you're doing an equity, that's probably going to just make your budget go higher and higher and higher. And you're not going to either, number one, find a space, or number two, find a contract that's going to be manageable for you to do it, unless you have money that you can throw away. Anybody that's doing large cast shows off Broadway, unless they're a known show that's moved down from Broadway, are probably not going to make money, just so you know. So if you're looking at it from a perspective of how big your cast is, you may have to go a different route in terms of that. So in the non-equity route, I develop a lot of shows that have few characters, and some people that I know that are not in equity, that are very good, have worked or work in the television industry or on film, and have decided that they're not going to join. That's a whole 4 unions thing, but they still don't have to, but they decide that they're going to do the show. And then I have a lot of younger actors and that I use to develop a show. We develop it a different way than most people do. We take money that may be spent on a 29-hour reading. For instance, we had a show that have recently come to us, and that was based in New York, and we took it to Los Angeles to build the show. We built it for what they were going to cost, about 25,000. That was going to cost. They were going to use to do a 29-hour reading, and we were able to build the show out in Los Angeles and be able to produce that show for 6 weeks with an audience, 15 performances, and then they had an audience so they could get the feedback that they needed on things that worked and didn't work. So that was one model that we found to be very successful. So we fixed it in Los Angeles. They were able to make the changes. They were able to do all of those different things that they wanted to do before they were able to bring it back to New York and then get an opportunity to show it to other producers to raise the level. We thought, myself and Tamara, we thought it was much more important that we build the equity stock into what the show could be. So it was a very small show that it could be transferred to an off-Broadway producership and third party or general managing team that would be able to take that show and take it to the next level. That's kind of how we approached that one. So another show came to me, was 21 cast members. 21 cast members, crazy, Wicked Frozen, but it ran for 10 months and it was a very successful run, but it was moving to Chicago. So we had to close the show after 10 months of sold out houses. And that show, we were able to build it because it was younger actors in the show that we were able to get economically. We still paid for the value of their time and talent, but we're also able to develop newer actors and ensemble members so that the green actors could get an opportunity to, number one, put it on their resume, and number two, also build their craft. There's a general thing in the off-Broadway world, which doesn't, and for the older people I'm talking to, that it used to be you would go to summer stock, you would build your credits there and build how you could actually come into a show quickly. And so you were doing 5 or 6 shows in 8 weeks, and then you were able to just jump into a show. And that was a special skill that you were able to learn how to do. And so you built your craft that way. That it's still somewhat of a process, but it's still not the way it used to be in the late 70s and 80s and all through the earlier times, where you go to summer stock, build your credits, come back to New York, pick up a show, maybe get a tour, do a tour, and then you would come back to New York and you do an off-Broadway show, and then you do a Broadway show, or you get whatever talent that you needed and craft work, board work that way. So now we're into the situation where you have a new show. You have to decide, for me, you have to decide how it is that you want to develop it. Do you want to spend a lot of money? When somebody comes to me, I said, do you want to spend a lot of money putting it into some sort of development process, 29-hour reading, and spend all of this money? Or do you want to do it a different way and then do a production of it, maybe in Los Angeles, or maybe a short-term production of it here, so you can build an audience and then actually then fix the project, make it better, and then bring it to a producership. So those are kind of the balances that I'm going to be looking at when I produce a show for you, or I have a general management consulting thing that I look at for you in terms of how you can do your show. So the first thing I do is I put a budget together, right? And so if you don't have a sense of how much stuff costs, it's kind of a rude awakening at some point to what a show could cost. So an off-Broadway show, non-union, depends. And if it's a play, it can be anywhere from, these are low numbers, and I know that some of you will scoff, but I've done it, where you could get a show in for 90,000 to 125,000 and then do a production of it. And then if it's a musical, it's probably about 125 to 150,000. That's a low end kind of budget for an off-Broadway show. So if you're going to spend $100,000 on a two-hander musical to do a 29-hour reading, you might as well do a production, is what I'm going to tell you. You'll have not all the necessary resources that you would need to do it top-notch, but through a guerrilla and social media platform, you would probably be able to handle something like that. If you have a show with 15 or 16 people, you're not going to be able to do it for that. And if you do it for that, then it might challenge not only the staff, but it's also the designers and your artists, but also your cast members. And it might not be a great experience for you. So when you're looking at it, there are a lot of things that I look at in terms of breaking down your system. You're going to have your creative end of it. You're going to have to decide whether or not you want to do the big media push that you're going to want to have for people to come and see it. And that's where your money goes. Usually it's in marketing and advertising, which is actually two different things. So you have to decide whether or not you want to put it all in your talent and have no money for marketing your show, or you want to put it into your marketing and then necessarily not have the best talent possible for that. So these are the things that you'll have to weigh. But having a good general manager or having a management team in place will be what is going to be important to your project and what will make it a success on however you classify success. I classify success by having 17 shows, and the shortest show run that any one of them did was 6 months, and we had to close that because that was our equity show. The second least number of months that we ran a show was 10 months, which is Wicked Frozen. And as Eric, if you were here earlier, we ran it 2.5 years for Frankenstein before we moved it into a movie format. All the other shows that we've done, we've been able to slowly trickle out the music and the money for the musicals, especially, and the plays, so that they're able to last, as long as possible, to get the licensing. We had licensing people that would come in and pick up our shows. And so that's how we kind of spent our money, because we were able to do a lot of different hats, myself and Tamara, with her for casting and me for design work, and both of us in general management and producing. So you want to try to either find a very specific specialist that's going to help you with your project, or you find a hybrid a team. I would say a team, because it's a lot of work. Hybrid set, a team that can have multiple hats and wear those particular hats. There are a lot of theaters that are right now opening up. I just saw some actually in today's newsletter that are opening up in terms of a one size fits all kind of box, which is kind of what we do with theater in the box. But they also do that as well. So there are a lot of organizations that are coming along. Meet with them. If you, it's like marrying somebody. You've got to not just go on a first date. It could look lovely the first time that you see them, and then you get into a relationship with one of your management company, and then suddenly it just turns really ugly in terms of you didn't read the contract, you didn't understand the contract, things like that. There are people that will actually help you out there. They're out there, and some charge, and sometimes it's worth the charge, and sometimes it's good to know somebody, and it's good to be in organizations that can help you that way. So just meet with them and get a good sense of who they are. I buy people. I don't necessarily buy projects. I buy people. And so I might work with you because I met you on another project on something on Speed Date. And then we had a conversation later, and I said, well, what else do you have? And something that was, to me, much more attractive in terms of wanting to work on the project, I was like, that's fantastic. So an example was I did a show called Teenage Party Massacre, and that was something that was born out of another project that I'd worked on with this person. And they said, oh, I got this thing where I want to do kind of a late night thing. And I was like, oh, Teenage Party Massacre, that's fantastic. So we produced it, and we did it at 11:30 at night on a Friday and Saturday night at St. Luke's, and it was very successful for its run. And so, it definitely was not the I've got this play where, two people are sitting around a tree. I'm like, that sounds like a dough too much. I'm not interested in that. What else do you have? And so it born out of a conversation of what you have. So that's why it's important for me to give yourself a pat on the back and know that you've got other things that are in the coffers when you're talking to people, and be confident. Be confident. There's a trick to it too, because a lot of times in organizations, they'll be like, I'm a self-producer, I do these things. Remember that you're a writer. or you're a creator, right? And that's why people have agents, so the agents can be the bad guys. And if you can't get one, or you can't afford one, or to work with you, or they don't know anything about you, you got to do a little bit of hustle there too. Remember, it's called show business. It's not just show, it's show business. And so the idea is you have to have a little bit of cachet in terms of your business. So just be confident. But listen, I've heard somebody just fake it till they make it. I've heard lots of those people talking to me, and I'm somebody who can say shenanigans because I know that that's not a truth. However, I let them go on, and then I say, okay, well, let's take a look at some of the ways that you're looking at this. And I don't put them in a position where it's like liar, liar, pants on fire, but I do help them, manipulate them to think that the next great idea that they're going to come up with has been something that's been born out of their sphere. And so then I have a conversation with them, and that's how I approach it. I'm very flexible. I'm not a yeller or a screamer when I'm in my productions, and I'm very approachable, and I listen to everybody. And it's different now because of the way the world is, but it's more of a democratic dictatorship for me. I hear everybody's opinion, and then I take a path based upon all of the input that I get from my staff, because I trust them, or the people I work with I trust. So you've got to find somebody that you trust, that you want to work with, and have fun doing it. And that's going to kind of be my suggestions. I know I just wanted to give bye. That was one of my staff members. I just wanted to kind of give you an overall, because it's supposed to be more of a Q&A, and I'm really excited about kind of hearing some of the either challenges that you've had, or some of the great wins that you've had in terms of asking questions, and you could start putting those in for Ross. I haven't given you anything real super specific, because that's kind of a model that we have, myself and Tamara, and we kind of help guide people. But those are the kind of suggestions that I can give to you as a producer, and say, listen, I'm going to buy whoever you are. Give yourself, let me know about your successes. Tell me exactly what you're doing, and I might ask you about something else that you're doing. I know it's kind of what they call the elevator pitch kind of thing, but if you're going to pique my interest about who you are, and not necessarily too many details about what your show is, so that I can ask you the next question. Because if you interest me in what your show is, then I'm going to say, oh, what about this? Oh, well, that's pretty fantastic. What about this? And you're going to start a dialogue back and forth with me that was not going to be about, this is my play, this is how many characters, the third horn player plays this on the fourth measure of this, and then when you get down to that part, this is what happens in the class. I'm going to understand that you already supposedly know how to write a play, right? So you brought your hat that says playwright creator, and I'm going to already assume that. So now tell me about you. Tell me about the genesis of the play, why this play is important to you, why you wrote it, why are you the person to tell it, and let's have a dialogue about that. And that is when you start your personal relationship. And as much as I dare say, a lot of times people will, especially in the speed dates, will read something to me. I don't want you to read something. If you really know your play intimately, you're going to be able to have a dialogue and a conversation with me, right? So that's all I'm looking for in terms of that. Find designers. I say find designers just as a thing. Put an ad out. There are lots of ads that go out in Playbill and Backstage, right? Put an ad out and to say, hey, I'm looking for, I can't pay anything, and keep your synopsis short so somebody will be interested in it. When he said, we have a serial killer on the loose and he drills people through doors at Teenage Party Massacre, we need a lighting designer. And guess what? I had 50 lighting designers that were interested in working on that show. That was low pay, but they were interested in working on it. I worked on Power Rangers. Why? Because I'm a Godzilla freak, and I wanted to build monsters. I took a pay cut. I was working at CBS Radford. I took a pay cut so I could be the monster coordinator on Power Rangers in Space, and Galaxy Power Rangers. And I didn't finish because I only got 2 years on a TV show, but I built a bottom half of a monster that I was turning into a Godzilla monster. But that was what was inspiring to me. So, if those are kind of things that you think about, then somebody will gravitate towards a really short synopsis, a really cool project to work on. Your designers that are coming out of schools. I just went to something over at Montclair State, and it was a presentation of the graduating seniors. If you've got something in your area, check out the schools, get these young designers before they become famous. They could say you knew them when. That's one way that you can to help save yourself money in terms of getting design people. Put out career.net is another one. You can put out an internship. If you're working in development as a creator, value people. We use people, and we don't have a lot of pay, and our theater company in Los Angeles is volunteer based only. All of our shows are volunteer based in Los Angeles. So we inspire them because we value them, right? We treat them well. We talk to them like, human beings. We don't yell, scream, or do any of that stuff. We do rehearsals. We do wine and cheese parties. We do all of those good things. And while we're doing those kind of things, they value us, we value them. So just make that a symbiotic relationship in anything that you're doing. You'll know that I don't like you if I treat you super professional, right? I still do my job. I'm just very professional, and that's what I get and give. And it's been very rare that I've had to do that. It makes me hurt when I have to do that, but at least I keep the relationship open. Don't burn relationships. This is a very, very small pool of people, especially that you're dealing with at this particular level in the off-Broadway and Broadway world. You'll get a reputation. People won't want to work with you. It just happens. So treat people well. Keep one foot in the door. If you get into a relationship you don't like, keep it professional. Keep it professional, and just let it do its course, and then the show will be over, and then you don't have to see that person ever again. So, but I always say, just don't burn your bridges. That's the other thing that I can suggest in terms of that. So we do a lot of programming, and we're involved in a lot of different things, and hopefully, you'll be able to bring projects to us. We're very excited about hearing new projects in Speed Date. We're very excited to hearing about how to write a musical. And stuff like that. So as a true board member, I would say that when I got involved in this organization 15 years ago, and that the reason I stayed and I actually became a board member was because I do trust what they're doing is for the good of the play, for the good of the word, and whether I'm involved in the project or not, to be able to try to go out and support it. Also, when this is just a caveat in terms of people that are doing readings and stuff like that, get your word out a lot sooner. Producers are busy. Some of us have calendars that are months and months in advance. So if you definitely know, get a date, do that early, and get the word out early, even if you could just secure your space. And if you're doing something on September 19th, don't wait until August 19th. If you know now and you book the space and there's no way you're going to get a refund, let people know now. Get on LinkedIn, send it out in a newsletter. Ways that you can best promote your play is get a website. There are free websites that are out there. Get a logo, get a website. It can change, that's okay. But just get something that you can get people driven to, especially producers. We're looking to go to something quick. If I go and I click on a musical and I click on 3 of your songs, get your demos up, do the demos well, as another suggestion. If you've got some cachet and some tokens, get pros to do your thing, pay a little bit of money to put it in a recording studio and get it done. Producers are looking for finished product, not Broadway quality cast recording product, but something that shows that you care. If you don't care about your project, and I go to your project and it's on 16-bit electronic sounds, I don't want to, I'll be like, okay, why did we do that? If your show's supposed to be a 1980s arcade musical, fantastic, I got it, that's lovely. You know what I mean? I'll buy into that. But if it's not, I just show your gold. If you've got 2 songs and everything's in key, and put it on, put up just a general website, keep it basic, keep some synopsis, some pictures. I was going to say AI generated stuff, not yet in terms of that, because I'm going to know it's AI generated, and I know it's not something that was done on a stage. I know my uncle's got a barn, and I do shows, and I did shows, and I did summer stock, and my dad had an opera house, and the liberal arts college, and we did things that were there. It's a photo press shot, etc. but something that looks like, it's from Blade Runner is not going to be something that, yes, we created this on stage. If you've already created that on stage with an LED wall and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, please, you know, um, uh, then you don't need me. So, yeah, so those are just really bullet point basics. I know I kind of went over them in general. We do boot camps, which get into much more specifics at True as well in terms of that. So you can definitely take advantages. But today's supposed to be more of about a conversation, and I, talked a little bit, maybe a little too much. And so I really do kind of want to see if Ross has anything out there that, people have questions about, other ways that we can, help. And we can help guide that, go see shows for free. Listen, I'm going to tell you the first thing, as soon as Eric said he has complimentary tickets, I'm telling you right now, go see shows. And if you get free tickets, go see shows. If people offer you to go to an event to fill seats to see their reading, go see shows. Go do it. I'm telling you now, just do that as not only just as a networking part, but just keep yourself involved in terms of seeing what other people are doing. I love seeing other people's work. I do. I love to be able to go to projects, and if I'm available, I will. I love people coming to see my shows. So, but the fact that he just offered you 2 complimentary tickets to go see a show with 2 Broadway television, stars, just take advantage of it. I would take 50 tickets now if I could. So, and go see Joel's show. It's a reading that's coming up, and announce it. Even if it's short notice, go ahead and announce it. Go to True, put it in the newsletter, and then announce that you've got shows. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to just kind of talk about today, and see where the industry is at right now. I've been out of work now for about 14 months with a medical injury, and I'm just kind of getting myself back into it. And so I just wanted to, say hello and see who's out there. So you have anything for me, Ross?
Yes. First, John, do you also direct?
Yes, I do. I direct film, television. I did the CBS program for 3 camera in the 90s. I've done probably about 40 plays, done some musicals, currently doing some shorts, movie shorts, and I do a lot of sizzle reels. I direct a lot of sizzle reels for people.
Awesome. If you want to do new recordings of songs, what are your key suggestions?
Find a really good recording engineer, number one. They're out there. Sometimes they're very young, but find a very good recording engineer. And the way you're going to know that is because you're going to just be able to do like a portfolio test that you would for a designer. You just say, hey, where else is your work? What else have you done? There's a lot of studio recording artists now that are looking for work, and you can get them, in an inexpensive kind of thing. There's maybe somebody else that's on here right now. There's a new website that's out that has that key, and I can't remember. It just slipped my mind about what it is about artists that are now looking for work. It's very much like the Jack Rabbit kind of the theater world. So it's like, I'm looking for a recording engineer, and it's an industry-based thing, not Angie's, but it's similar to like Angie's and Jack Rabbit, where we can find really good people. So, but find a really good recording engineer. They'll be able to help you steer you to an inexpensive recording studio as well.
Right. What is your opinion of pitch decks? It seems to be the thing to do, but so many of them are just people reading what's on the pitch deck. And if you do like them, what should be in them?
Okay. Well, my experience is short is better. There are a couple of people that I know that do pitch decks. They're kind of tricky because the industry is kind of switching now. The reason I concentrate more on a visual sizzle reel type of pitch deck is it's short, and they get the mood concept, where sometimes the artwork itself doesn't transfer to a particular mood that you're trying to set. it should for sure in a pitch deck. You should have, if you have quality people or people that you can say, this person is working on the project currently, make sure that that's something that comes to the forefront. If you're somebody that has done a lot of work, again, an attaboy, give yourself the accolades that it is. Give your general genesis of the particular piece, why you're the person, why you think it's important from the audience perspective. Some people get into longer pitch decks with audience, development. I think keep it to one page, where if you're just trying to make a point about where Off-Broadway's going or why this particular show is similar to this particular show or these particular shows, that's always helpful. But a lot of producers already know that information, like box office grosses and stuff like that. We already know that Wicked's out there. We know that Lion King is out there. What is it that's unique about yours and where that's going to fit into a niche of why that's going to be a good Broadway show for us to take a look at? I think Tracy's on here as well. There's Natalie, who is involved in True. They do pitch decks. And so I've seen some of them. So, excited about the people that are involved with True already that do pitch decks. So you can take a look at their work. Like I said, Tracy does them, and so reach out. And Tracy's actually in it there. Tracy's in the chat right there. So, again, fellowship, networking, that kind of thing.
Right. Let me see. If we weren't accepted at the speed dating session last year, what advice would you give to improve our chances, especially if we really, really want to do it?
Well, talk to other members that have been in speed date, right? I'm sure that there's several people that are on here that have done speed date, and you could just in the chat, they could say, I did speed date, and you can actually kind of use that as a template. Again, if you're networking and you say that to somebody, from a perspective of not a coach, but from the perspective of what I look for is a nice, clean pitch deck. And again, the things of what inspired you to write it, why do you think it's important for the audience, and why do you need to tell the story? Those are going to be the three W's of what's going to make a good application. Making sure that your source, the material that you have some sort of, to me, marketing in terms of either having a design, having a small website, having the demos prepared, and putting a pitch deck that's not 32 pages long. I think a pitch deck can easily be just a pitch for the application can easily be something that can be done in a page and a half if you want to, put something together. Keep it short and sweet. Show your gold. Don't go too far into it. If somebody's going to be interested in finding out further information for the application for speed date, let that be, the question for those that make those kind of judgment calls. But if you really want to get it in, you'll find ways to get it in, is my opinion. So
what is your experience for getting to the right press, what is your getting the right press connected to you and to make sure that they come to the show?
Well, all right. So press is tricky, especially now on the internet, right? And trying to get bloggers and reviews are going to come far and few and in between. It's not like the old days where, if you had something, the Times used to review intimate theater, the Times used to do Broadway theater, the Times used to go to off-Broadway theater. This is my suggestion. You go to Playbill or you go to Broadway World or you go to, other source organization, Theater Guide, World Theater News. Find out who the press people are and what sort of shows that they're seeing, and seeing if yours falls into that category. If yours falls into parodies, or yours falls into cabaret, or yours falls into musicals, and you see that there are reviewers that are going to see your type of show, definitely look for who the press and publicist was for that particular thing. There's so many that are out there. There's so many that are good. It's a small world, but it's a hierarchy in terms of like Peter Cromartie is $10,000 and John Smith is $1,000 a week. you have to balance that in terms of like where your marketing is. Remember, we talked about marketing money. So if you got a lot of money to put into marketing, you're going to want to go after some publicists and press agents that have a lot of things that are being reviewed. And you can easily find out what that is. And if you don't know, go to Google and say press agent for Wicked, press agent for whatever your particular show happens to be. Follow their path as well. A lot of times they'll be like, I won 14 Tonys, right? And they were the press agent for every single one of those. Well, can you afford them? Great. If you can't, find somebody that you might be able to afford that has a lot of reviewers that are coming to see their shows, because they'll work for you. I've used 5 different press agents for our 17 shows. I like all of them, and they were all just different. Sometimes I could afford a better one in terms of getting the word out there, and the other times I was able to get somebody who was a social media king and got my show sold out because they were guerrilla press agent, and they went down to the Village, and they were tied into NYU and for Wicked Frozen, they were tied into all of these social media organizations, and they just did a hell of a job, and they cost me like 1/10 of what I paid for my equity show.
What are some of the biggest cost increases / budget hits since the return from lockdown?
Number one is wood. Building your show. If you have a show that's set heavy, it's building your show, because wood's almost 150% more than it costs in metal and hardware and fasteners. If you have a one set unit that you can creatively come up with, that doesn't necessarily need those kind of things, that's the way to go. AV has gone up because there's a lot of new designers that have come out that use projection. So equipment really is the one that has really spiked the most. Rental, and is followed closely by rental. I've found that I've almost places that I used to be able to rent, I've almost doubled, and that's because they survived through COVID, and now they're trying to make up some type of income that usually it's not them, it's the landlord. The landlords are the ones that have jacked up all the real estate prices. So theaters are either closing or they're having to buckle down and charge producers sometimes almost twice of what I used to pay. When I was actually surprised when I went back to a theater, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, oh, John, we're so sorry, but that's gone up. And I was like, dude, that's 100%. And he's like, absolutely. So yeah, first is equipment, and then number 2 is theater rental.
All right. Question, John Lant. Could you please talk about raising money from investors who are not familiar with Broadway investing, but are looking for an alternate high risk / high reward asset class?
Well, it's going to be high risk, that's for sure. I do it different ways. One of the ways that I do it is I find somebody who's really interested in giving money, in either a philanthropic or they are looking for the high risk. They're looking to gamble, right? And so I wine and dine them. I do, for musicals, I'll do a wine and cheese party in a home. I get one of my musical theater people friends, and then I know that this guy's got a piano and a big living room, and I come up with unique ways to, depending upon who it is I'm targeting. So if it's just a shotgun, it's not as personal. But if you've got people that you have what we call hot leads, and you can bring them into a situation where you think that they might enjoy it, that we were doing a Western musical and we had a barbecue, right? So I had another one which was kind of a sophisticated piece. So we did wine and cheese and champagne. So depending on who that investor is that you're going after, crowdsource funding, you really don't know who that person is. They just say, yeah, I'm interested in theater. And then at that point, I would say, what kind of theater are you interested in? Is this somebody that I want to work with? They should have fun too. Listen, a gamble, I don't gamble, but I gamble in my head. Like if I spend $100 and I would have bet that horse at the Kentucky Derby, I pick one. I don't gamble with my money, but if I pick one, there's a unique energy that comes from, and the thrill that comes from that. And if you can get them to buy into that, man, congratulations. So.
All right. I'm about to start writing my full-length thesis musical. I wonder if you have any advice on the cast size.
What was that? They're getting ready to write their
Full-length thesis musical.
thesis. Well, thesis, you can write anything you want, right? So write it. Write it as big as you want, right, for your thesis, and then find out where you can find ways to minimize it so that you can actually, once you're in the real world of unemployment, you can actually go out and actually sell it, right? Smaller musicals, look at a musical called Class Act. You can look at the smaller musicals like that could be done. Maybe you run a piano vocal, Forever Plaid, Marvelettes, things like that, 4 to 6. Remember when you're doing a show where if you're doing a musical, and let's just take it, if you're going to take it, say, to an equity contract. All right, so you're doing a musical. First off, musicals, you have to have your understudies. So if you don't match your characters, then you're going to have a character for each. So now your cast of 4 is now a cast of 8. Now you've got 2 stage managers because it's a musical. So you got a PSM and an ASM, right? So now you've got 10. So now your 4-person cast is 10. Now you've got your musicians, and so you have your piano player, all right, your music director. And if you don't have any instruments in the pit, then you're going to make sure you have a cover. So you have to cover them. So your 4-person musicals now costing you 12 full-time kind of contracts in terms of that. So again, thinking ahead, be aware of what the rules are, especially if you're writing something for a Broadway style musical. If it's off Broadway, you might be able to get away with 2 understudies and 1 stage manager, that kind of thing. So, but if it's a thesis, write them all, get all those characters out, get them there, and then figure out how to double them later. You want your bosses want to be, I would think, academically impressed that you could actually write a big, huge musical like On the Town.
All right. Top outside the box tips for raising funds for a nonprofit in a non-commercial trajectory outside of crowdfunding.
Outside of crowdfunding, wow, angels. That's always coming down to like family and stuff like that. Okay, so if you're talking about a nonprofit, non-commercial type of situation, and you want your piece out there, and you're doing generally at a larger scale level, it's called an enhancement. And the enhancement means that you're just giving all the money to a producing organization to produce it for you, of which you're not going to get any money back, but you're going to get the notoriety of your piece being done at like a Lincoln Center or a regional theater like the Alliance down in Atlanta where I worked, or in Chicago or out in Los Angeles where it's maybe done by the Actors Gang or something like that, right? So thinking outside the box on terms of that, without crowdsource funding, I don't, it's having a rich friend. That's the high risk, high reward. Without crowdsource funding, you can do it you want to go to companies that have some sort of, not a subscription necessarily, but have a large emailing list, that you can get your show into a situation where you're able to put that show up in their particular space to get more people interested in your show. Then when it's done, after you've done there was one that just did a 4 week run, was really successful at a place here in New York. They approached me and I said, hey, let me take a look at what your numbers are. And they didn't have any, they ran out of money. And I was like, well, that's great. Fantastic. Now, who do you have that was interested in your show that might be involved? And they had several different people that had friends of theirs. Listen, you can just, it's not who you know, it's who they know, right? So the idea is it's the next person up. So if you come to me for money, I'm like, I don't have any money. However, if you've got a cowboy musical, I'm going to send you to my friend here. And if you've got a musical about Italians, I'm going to send you to my friend that is the cardiologist at UCLA and just loves, musicals about Italians. So again, remember, it's not necessarily your first level of who you know. It's definitely the second level of who they know. And you can work your way that way without crowdfunding source, and going out that way. Just ask. Because if you say, hey, do you have a friend? If I do, I will tell you. I will put you guys together. I don't have a problem doing that. Some people might, but that's okay. Just value that, though. If somebody asks you and you say, no, I don't know anybody, don't keep going to that well and going, are you sure you don't know anybody? I thought you knew Mark Cuban, the guy from Shark Tank. They might know them, arbitrarily, but don't push the button too much is what I say. If somebody says no, they don't know anybody.
What key components needs a show to be successful?
What components?
Key components does a show need to be successful?
One more time. What components?
What key components does a show need
Good
to
script.
be successful?
Good script. Script. That's the best thing I can have for you is the script. There's going to be shows that you're going to have a key star in it, but the show sucks. And you're going to have a show that you have a great show and that person is elevated to the quality of the show. It's got to be good writing. That's the number one thing. It really is going to be good writing. And if it's a musical, for me, it doesn't have to be, everybody's got to whistle a tune as they come out. That's true in one way, but as long as the show is tight and you can remember the through line and remember the musicals, but not necessarily the music, but it made sense. It's always going to be about the script. It's always going to be about the script for me, key component. Absolutely.
All right. John, can you share your email?
Yeah, sure. I thought I was in there, but okay. Yes, absolutely.
It is.
The Chappy Chap. Someone could put that in there for me. Okay, my computer right now. I've got my little tiny computer right here. Yeah, it's John Lant at rightactrep.org. There we are. Chat. Chat. There we are. Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. All right, that's all the questions in the chat.
Cool, good. And it looks like right on time too. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming to the meeting today. As a reminder, if you haven't gotten a chance to or don't get a chance to because you're your own Tony party, but you can do something for True, please go to the trueonline.org, our website, and see how you can participate in the Tony party. Even if you can't make it, there's a quick little small donation. If you can make that, that would be great. That'll help us pay for the event at Jack Doyle's. If you can make it, great. We'd love to have you. There's going to be a lot of participants there. Like I said, it's a buffet style dinner type thing with a glass of wine and a dessert. There's obviously Tony pool. There's prize giveaways for tickets. If you actually join as a member of True, which would love to have you as part of the membership, not only will the discounts be throughout the year and to other events, but also that one you'll save I think 15% or something like that, at least on the ticket as well. And you'll be able to participate that way. So I wanted to thank everybody for allowing me just to ramble on. Like I said, a lot of these are bullet points. These are longer conversations, obviously. It's much more important to me so that you get to kind of know me, so that if there's something that a project that you might have that Tamara and I can, look at. We'd love to see you at Speed Date. Get involved with that. If you can't get into Speed Date, it's pretty competitive. I got to tell you, when you're talking about 22 shows that you're going to be seen by 11 Broadway and off-Broadway producers, it's very competitive. So keep going, and you can always there's always applications and other festivals. Get into another festival. There's a couple that run here: New York Winter Festival, the New York Summer Festival. They're pretty inexpensive. I've been involved with those. I'm in talks with John Chatterton again about potentially opening up Midtown International Theater Festival. And getting that up and running again. So there's lots of opportunities for you to get your work out there. Get them into play competitions. That's what I'm going to say. Get your work out there and get some of that stuff rolling. Get a website. Inexpensive website, get your stuff up, send us an email, send me a link, I will go take a look at it. And if I got any quick comments that I can make, I will do so. If you don't hear from me, poke the bear again. I'm coming back into the fold of the workforce. So, gonna be super busy again, but, if I can, I will take moments like this where I can, uh, uh, be involved and hopefully, meet you, in our journey and adventure in theater. So, but thank you for coming to today's June 14th, 2004, Friday True Community Gathering. And welcome for all the new people that joined us today. It was a pretty nice turnout today, over 50 that we had. And looking forward to seeing you at the next True event. All right. Thank you very much.